Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming out. If you're here, I don't think you had enough fun in Spain last night, but everybody online, thanks for joining us as well. I'm Clayton Lowry. I'm the co-founder and chief strategy officer at the network firm. We are responsible for the first ever on-chain proof of reserves that we issued with Chainlink and TrueUSD a few years ago. We're the largest proof of reserve provider in the world right now, and we also offer Web3 and digital asset accounting services, traditional type stuff like outsourced accounting, outsourced finance, treasury management, and several other things that we offer for different startups within the crypto industry. So today I want to talk to you about trust and transparency gaps in our industry. It's a long-term problem. It's plagued us for a long time, all the way going back from Mt. Gox to FTX and many things in between. So we're going to get into what these gaps are, and it's a constant struggle in our industry. It's been a story of innovation where centralization and decentralization are constantly in sort of a battle. Bitcoin was created back in 2009, and it was meant to be peer-to-peer, which it is, but shortly after that we introduced centralized exchanges and immediately had risks implemented into the system, and it led to like a very catastrophic problem with Mt. Gox. Smart contracts, something similar, promised immutability, which is great in a lot of ways, but we introduced proxy contracts and have had so many rugs because of the multi-sig issues, and a lot of people don't even understand what the risks are on a lot of these smart contracts and where the centralization problems are. And that goes to the Oracle problem as well. NFTs, something similar as well. There's a funny example after FTX collapsed where a lot of the people that minted on the FTX US, their metadata was on the FTX servers, and when they went to access their NFT, it went to the bankruptcy website. And so yeah, you may own the NFT on chain, but the data lived on the FTX servers, and that became a big problem if you owned one of those FTX NFTs. And there's many more not on this list, like nodes operating on centralized servers, some of the mining pool issues. But as you can see, this is a common theme across our industry and a big problem, and I think one of the biggest problems that's held us back. Okay, so this is the trust spectrum. Real-world assets today live in a very high trust spot. A lot of issuers, you need to trust them, which is pretty not surprising. They're centralized assets, they live off-chain, but I think our goal of this industry and the goal of this whole space needs to be to push these as far to the trustlessness side as we can. We have Bitcoin and ETH, the assets living over there, and we need to push this indicator across towards trustlessness. I think it's a huge problem holding back RWA adoption, and I don't want in an RWA scenario to happen like we've seen on so many of the centralized exchanges. And our mission at the network firm has always been to shrink this gap. I don't think we'll ever obviously achieve BTC and ETH type trustlessness on RWAs, but we can definitely get a lot closer. And this whole conference a lot of it's been about verification and cryptographic truth, and that's something that's really important in the RWA space. We have none of that now, or very little, and we have high trust in issuers and brands. So our first early real-world asset was Tether, which has introduced a lot of trustlessness to the system, actually. Like, you can hold this without verification, you can send it to anyone in the world, but they've caused a lot of issues for the industry as well in many ways. At first, they had zero initial transparency. They have improved a lot. They're now working with an accounting firm out of Italy and offering quarterly attest reports. And so they have iterated on that and brought more trust to where you need to trust less to the system, but it's been a problem. USDT was an incredible innovation, but we introduced hidden risks back into the system when we have this stable coin that had very little verification on it until more recently, and still even today, there's a lot of trust issues with USDT. And I sometimes wonder where we would be as an industry today if Tether had prioritized transparency from the very beginning. I think there's a lot of people, especially like haters out there, that really use Tether to attack the whole industry. And it would be really awesome if we got a more trustless version of Tether. So the next evolution in trust and transparency that we've worked on with Chainlink is what we've done with TrueUSD over those last several years. Back in 2019 with TrueUSD, we introduced the first dashboard of token balances and bank reserves. This was the first time any RWA really started reporting transparency in real time. You could see the makeup of the reserves, in which banks they were in, and the stablecoins issued on the blockchains that they were on. And that was a big leap at that time. At the time, hardly anyone was doing anything. And so we pushed the needle, and we continued to do that with them. And it was pretty great. The next kind of phase of that, we layered on the attest reporting on top of that and issued the first automated and real-time attest over anything in the history of the accounting. And this was another leap forward, and I think we're setting another standard there. Then what I'm the most excited about was in late 2020, Chainlink partnered with TrueUSD to push the first ever reserves data on chain. And I think that was the beginning of setting what I believe will be a global standard one day. And we continue to work with Chainlink and TrueUSD to innovate forward. And in early 2023, this year, TrueUSD integrated Secure Mint to control minting of the reserves or the tokens without adequate reserves. And this is an awesome solution. I think when we first put the data on chain, I didn't really know what to expect. Johan and I would talk about it back in the day and be like, well, how will the industry adopt this data? And at first we went to DeFi applications, and for like a circuit breakers, there are some other things we had talked about that could potentially be used for this data on chain, but it ended up being back into the issuers in the Secure Mint function. And so the way this works is a stablecoin we have a DAWN reporting the reserves on a deviation threshold or every heartbeat time, and before the issuer goes to mint new RWAs or stablecoins in this case, they have to query the feed and check that there's adequate reserves to mint up against that level. So it prevents against infinite mint attacks, and it prevents against fraud. And I think it's going to become the standard of RWA transparency. So where does that leave us today? We've made a lot of progress, but there's a lot more to be done. I think this is the gold standard in the future for all RWAs. Many are still not doing anything, and worse, customers don't know. But I think we have made a lot of progress. Stablecoins there's not a regulatory standard, but they have adopted somewhat of a standard on reporting through accounting firms. And so we've moved the needle some. In TrueUSD, or this real-time transparency case where we use Chainlink oracles to put the data on chain, I think we've moved the needle even further. But there's work to be done. And there's still problems remaining. The solution has been a massive improvement, but it's not very decentralized at all. And we've shifted trust from the issuer to the data provider or the auditor, and that industry has a long history of problems as well. Many auditors know this for sure, like the history of all the accounting problems that have happened. And so instead of just trusting the issuer, now the trust is in the accounting firm or the data provider. And the whole point of this industry is to remove trustlessness, like I was just talking about on the trust spectrum. And so if we have to just still trust another brand, I don't think we're there yet. We've made a lot of progress, but not fully there. And the DAWN only really covers availability. The Chainlink oracles, we have a decentralized oracle network, but we have one data provider right now on all the reserve feeds, except for the cross-chain ones. Those are a little different, but the RWA ones are still single data provider. And so the underlying data is not decentralized, and we got to work on that because that, like I said, that doesn't embrace the values that we're trying to set for this industry. Also, another problem I don't have on here is the multi-chain problem. Sergey mentioned this yesterday in his talk. Like proof of reserves loses some visibility when assets are moved across chains. So I'm excited to see sort of how CCIP fixes this problem. It's been a huge pain for our team and Chainlink's team to kind of allocate reserves by chain and the issuers. And so I'm excited to see the future work of that problem. So what's the end game? This is a futuristic idea. I think we've talked a lot about with Chainlink and some other partners in the industry. And this is what we think is next in the final state of RWA transparency. We can take any tokenized asset, whether that's a cross-chain tokenized asset, or an RWA, some things that probably don't even exist yet, and we create a DAN, which is a decentralized audit network, an Oracle network of various sources, various auditors working in this space, or even non-auditors as well, maybe even the custodians directly. And we report that in a decentralized way into the smart contract using the secure mint function. I think this is so powerful. This doesn't exist yet, but I'm very excited to work on it. I think there's several ways this could work. It's still very hypothetical. Maybe each Oracle brings in a shard of the data or one source. Many of these RWAs have several sources, several valuation methodologies, and each one could bring that in, or they could all bring it in collectively with multiple attestations. I think there's many open questions there. Audit firms don't work with each other typically on the same clients. We don't really see that. They're very risk averse. And I think the questions on how we may handle a dispute in this case with staking are really open-ended too. But I think this is for systemic large RWAs as they grow into the trillions and trillions. This is what we see as the future of RWA transparency. And we're really excited to work on this problem with some of our partners in Chainlink, and I think it's going to be a really exciting future. So this is where we are today, as I mentioned earlier. And with this DAN idea, this is where we see the RWAs going in the future. A decentralized consensus layer with multiple auditors and/or custodians bringing in each piece of data, multiple node operators. This is going to be this future standard of RWA transparency. We're really excited about it. This vision is how we give RWAs those inherent qualities that Bitcoin and ETH have that I mentioned back at the beginning. We have all the awesome qualities of transferability and transparency, and then we move this needle over to more trustlessness and give these RWAs a lot of those same qualities. If you're an issuer, an accounting firm, or a node operator interested in building this vision together with us, please reach out to me. We'd love to work on this problem with you. So I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming, and have a great conference.